most streamed rapper alive, a baby mama, and a child caught in the middle. He said that, on camera, months before he typed "fuck yo baby" about his own son, and deleted every account he had without a single word of explanation. NBA YoungBoy just torched the most successful run of his career in one post. A child's injury, a cover-up allegation, a man at the peak of everything, choosing silence. Here's the full story. Let's get into it. That is Arcola, also known as Drew Valentina, mid-live, holding nothing back. She is not venting to a friend. She is not sending a voice note. She is on camera, in front of thousands of people, comparing NBA YoungBoy to the mother who allegedly spat on him as a child, and she is just getting warmed up. By the time this live ended, she had accused him of lying about a dog bite, stripped him of the title of father entirely, dragged his wife Jaslyn by name, and left receipts on the table that the internet is still talking about. This is what set everything off. This is why, within days of this live going viral, YoungBoy's Instagram and X accounts were gone, deactivated, without a word, without an explanation, without so much as a story post, just silence where a man used to be. Now, to understand why that silence hits so different, you need to know exactly who NBA YoungBoy was heading into this moment. Because the height he was at makes the fall that much harder to look at. NBA YoungBoy, born Kentrell Deshaun Gaulden on October 20th, 1999, is one of the most prolific and most streamed artists in hip-hop history. By 2026, this man has charted more albums on the Billboard 200 than any rapper alive, 34 entries. He's the youngest artist in Billboard history to chart 100 singles on the Hot 100. He has more RIAA Platinum certifications than any other rapper in the genre's history, 126 titles between 2015 and 2025. He sold over 109 million digital copies in the United States alone. The industry spent years trying to ignore him, and here's how he felt about it when they eventually stopped. That is a man who sees right through the validation. He knew the flowers only came because they realized they couldn't stop him. And heading into early 2026, fresh off a presidential pardon, a $70 million tour, and a Best Rapper Alive cover, he was operating at the absolute peak of his career. He was untouchable. And then Arcola went live. In early March 2026, Arcola reposted content to her page criticizing YoungBoy's approach to fatherhood, specifically accusing him of putting his romantic relationships above his children. Now, this in itself might have blown over. Celebrities get dragged for parenting all the time. But what pushed this into a completely different category was what she alleged happened to their son, Cal Gaulden, the child they share together, born in April 2021. Arcola accused YoungBoy of negligence, claiming their son was injured while under his care and the care of his wife, Jaslyn Michelle. She went on live, held up a photo of the child's hand, and laid it out with no hesitation. She's not speculating. She's not venting. She's presenting what she believes is visual evidence and daring anyone to challenge it. YoungBoy's household had told her the child was bitten by a dog, and Arcola came to that live with comparison photos, pointing to what she says is brown discoloration at the top of the wound that looks nothing like a bite. No independent medical confirmation has been publicly released, but the conviction in how she laid it out is what made the live go viral before she even finished talking. Now here's where it gets ugly, because instead of addressing the injury concern, instead of taking a moment to respond with any kind of parental care or measured tone, NBA YoungBoy fired back on Instagram stories with posts that the internet has not forgotten. And I'm going to be very direct with you here. The posts read, "Girl, fuck your baby. You never try again. I'll gladly pay child support. It's fuck you." Followed by, "I don't play or do no pretending I don't care. I don't give a fuck you mean." Read that again. Fuck your baby. About his own son, a little boy named Kyle, who, according to Arcola on that same live, still asks about his father, still says he misses him. And that's what his father typed out for the entire internet to see. Let that land. A child who still misses his father, and his father's public response is, "Fuck yo baby." The internet did not hold back, not even slightly. The post went viral almost instantaneously, drawing widespread condemnation from fans, commentators, and social media users across every platform. People who had defended YoungBoy through weapons charges, through federal indictments, through years of legal drama. Even they were drawing a line here. Comments poured in calling it irresponsible, calling it harmful, calling it unforgivable. Screenshots spread faster than any clarification could travel. Within days, YoungBoy's Instagram and X accounts went dark, gone, completely deactivated. And here's the thing about that. This is a man who, just months before this, was in his Billboard cover interview saying, he said that on record, on camera, with conviction. And then Arcola went live. He responded with, "Fuck yo baby." The internet erupted, and his accounts vanished without a word. That is not the behavior of a man who is not provoked. That is a man who got provoked, responded in the worst possible way, and then did what he has always done when the heat becomes unbearable. He disappeared. So what actually led here? Who is Arcola? What is the full story between them? And why does this keep happening with Kentrell? That's exactly what we're breaking down next. Let's talk about who Arcola actually is, because she is not a peripheral figure in this story. She is central to it. Arcola, also known as Drew or Drew Valentina, is the mother of YoungBoy's son Cale Galden, and by most counts, she is among his 7th to 8th baby mama. Out of a reported 10 or more, she has spoken extensively about their relationship, their co-parenting dynamic, and the emotional toll both have taken on her. And if you've been following her at all, you know she is not someone who comes out guns blazing without reason. When she goes in with evidence. Their relationship reportedly began around 2020, with Arcola later describing their first interaction during a live video where YoungBoy flirtatiously asked to see her body, something she would later call embarrassing in retrospect. That tells you everything you need to know about how this started. It was electric, it was impulsive, and it was never built on anything stable. By April 2021, Arcola had given birth to Cal, and the relationship had already soured. YoungBoy reportedly claimed he never wanted a child with her, which led to her first wave of public responses defending their history. She spoke about a tattoo of his name she later regretted. She said her love for him was genuine. She said she raised Kyle largely by herself, and for years after that, she maintained a relatively independent profile, getting a regular job, moving on with her life, and occasionally responding to drama when it spilled into her lane. But the co-parenting arrangement has never been peaceful, not even close. In March 2023, Arcola went public with accusations of physical and sexual assault she attributed to YoungBoy, claiming he also put her and Kyle out on the street and disowned them. That year, YoungBoy married Jaslyn Michelle in January 2023, which complicated the co-parenting landscape even further. And then in November 2023, things turned physically dangerous. Arcola alleged that when she went to pick Kale up from YoungBoy's home, 2 of his girlfriends attacked her while she was holding the baby. Photos of the alleged injuries circulated online. The phrase she used to describe the location, YoungBoy's Utah home, was haunting. She called it trouble on top of the mountain. In February 2024, there were even reports that Arcola had been kidnapped, though details on that were limited. This is a woman who, by her own account, has spent years navigating an environment that has been consistently hostile, chaotic, and at times dangerous, all while raising a child. Now let's get specific about what triggered this March 2026 eruption, because the injury allegation is the thing that completely changed the temperature of this situation. Arcola says Cal came back from YoungBoy's care with an injury to his hand. She says she texted Jaslyn directly to ask what happened, and she says the response she got was quick, almost too quick. A dog bite. Cal got bit by a dog. She brought receipts. She pulled up actual images of dog bites on her live stream and held them up for comparison. She pointed to what she described as brown discoloration at the top of the wound and stated definitively that it was a burn mark, not a bite. Now we should be clear. No independent medical confirmation of this has been publicly released. but the conviction in how she presented the claim and the fact that she went so far as to show comparative photos live is what made it land so hard for viewers watching in real time. She stripped him of the title entirely. Not bad dad, not deadbeat, sperm donor, publicly, on camera. Arcola didn't let Jaslyn escape unscathed either. She came for her directly, calling her a wolf in sheep's clothing, accusing her of playing a calculated game to benefit from YoungBoy's wealth, and suggesting that Jaslyn's behavior as a stepmother has been deeply problematic. She said, and this is a paraphrase of her exact words from the live, that as a mother and as a wife, she would have personally ensured her ex's child had access to their father, that she would have pushed for court-ordered custody rather than allowing the child to be kept away. That's not venting, that's a war declaration. Now here's what I need you to understand about the social media deletion, because context is everything. This is not the first time NBA YoungBoy has gone completely dark on social media. Not even close. In April 2019, he deleted both Twitter and Instagram after being charged in an Atlanta drug arrest. In April 2020, he wiped all his Instagram posts and explained during an IG Live that women were using old content to incriminate him, calling it mind games. In August 2022, he cleared his entire Instagram page again, sparking another wave of fan speculation. There have been multiple instances of him ending IG Lives abruptly. On one occasion, he said 200,000 concurrent viewers made him too uncomfortable to continue. This is a man who has repeatedly told the world, in interviews and in action, that he has a very limited social battery. In his Bootleg Kev podcast appearance, he spoke openly about spending entire days confined to a single room in his own home, not because he had to, but because that's how his mind works. No, not even music, just existing, just sitting. He literally describes spending entire days in a single room of his mansion, not recording, not socializing, just being. This is who NBA YoungBoy is, a man who, by his own admission, is deeply introverted, easily overwhelmed, and prone to retreat when the pressure becomes too much. As of March 11th, 2026, both his Instagram and X accounts remain deactivated. No statement, no clue. The silence is doing all the talking. Some of his fans are reading this as a music signal. One widely shared fan account post read that YB had deactivated, and then immediately followed it with anticipation that he was about to lock in. That is the remarkable thing about his fan base. They have developed a kind of shorthand with him over the years where going dark is not a red flag, it's a bat signal. But others aren't so optimistic. The "fuck yo baby" post didn't disappear just because his accounts did. The screenshots are still everywhere, the conversation is still happening. The absence isn't providing cover, it's actually intensifying the scrutiny. He said that himself, in his own vlog. He thrives on pain. He values negativity as fuel. So the question becomes, is deleting his social media an act of retreat? Or is it him retreating to his laboratory to convert all of this into something? To understand what is happening in March 2026, you have to understand what this man has been carrying since birth. Because NBA YoungBoy is not just a rapper who deleted his Instagram. He is a person who has been in active psychological crisis for most of his conscious life, who has built one of the most extraordinary careers in hip-hop in spite of that, and sometimes because of it. Kentrell Deshaun Gaulden was born on October 20th, 1999 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. His father was sentenced to 55 years in prison before Kentrell was old enough to form memories of him. His mother was largely absent. He was raised primarily by his maternal grandmother. And when she died of heart failure in 2010, when Kentrell was just 10 years old, something fundamental broke open in him. He dropped out of school in the 9th grade, turned to street life, and was involved in robberies that landed him in juvenile detention by age 15. At age 4, he had broken his neck in a wrestling accident, requiring a halo brace that left permanent scars on his forehead. The trauma started before he could even form full sentences. And yet, in his Billboard cover interview, he said something that stops you cold. Read that again. He's not describing a feeling he has. He's describing a feeling he wants to have one day. That's not confidence. That's a man rehearsing something he hasn't earned yet in his own mind. And then he keeps going. That is a man who does not believe, at his core, that he deserves to be here. That is a man narrating the affirmations he's trying to give himself, not affirmations he actually feels. That's the foundation we're dealing with. His legal history is one of the most extensively documented in modern hip-hop, from a 2016 attempted murder charge in Baton Rouge that led to a suspended 10-year sentence, to a 2018 assault and kidnapping warrant out of Georgia tied to an altercation with then-girlfriend Janiet Jackson, to a 2019 Miami shootout that resulted in a probation violation and 90 days in jail, to a 2020 federal indictment involving stolen firearms and drug distribution. The man has spent the better part of a decade in legal bondage. From October 2021 through 2024, he was under strict house arrest in Utah on a $1.5 million bond. And then in April 2024, while still on house arrest, he was arrested again on 63 charges in Cache County, Utah, including identity fraud, forgery, obtaining prescriptions under false pretenses, and running an alleged large-scale prescription drug fraud ring from his Huntsville home. His house arrest was revoked. He went back to jail without bond. He accepted a comprehensive plea deal in late 2024, guilty to 1 federal gun count, time served on the Utah fraud charges, $200,000 federal fine, $25,000 state fine, and 60 months of probation. And then, as already noted, Trump pardoned him in May 2025. What did 3 years of house arrest, followed by rearrest, followed by plea deals and pardons do to this man's psyche? He told us directly. He's talking about fame, about the music industry, about what being NBA YoungBoy actually costs him day to day. And then, without any prompting from the interviewer, he adds, "He said that unprompted. I cry a lot, literally, on camera, in a podcast interview." This is a man who was raised to believe that vulnerability was a death sentence. And he's sitting across from a microphone saying he cries a lot. NBA YoungBoy has spoken openly and repeatedly about suffering from anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and what some have described as possible bipolar disorder. In a cryptic July 2023 post made through his cat's Instagram account, he revealed he was taking 20 Xanax pills a day and issued a public plea for help. That is not recreational drug use. That is someone drowning. He briefly entered therapy, but it was court-ordered, and he stopped when the mandate ended. When pressed about it in the Bootleg Kev interview, he confirmed he had a session scheduled for that Saturday. But his ambivalence about the whole thing was palpable. He later went to rehab and said something that actually revealed a lot. He said he went to rehab and was accepted in a way he had never been before, that he met genuinely cool people, and that he loved the environment. For a man who has described himself as being terrified of people, that is remarkable. That rehab gave him something his entire social circle seemingly couldn't: anonymous acceptance. In his Billboard cover interview, he expressed deep regret about the impact of his music. He called music a disease and said he regrets not channeling his energy elsewhere earlier. He said music is the only way he can express himself, that sitting behind a mic and letting things pour out is the only relief he feels, which means when he goes silent on social media, he is simultaneously the loudest he'll ever be in the studio. YoungBoy's fanbase, often called Slimes or YoungBoy Nation, is one of the most fiercely loyal in contemporary music. These are not casual listeners. They are diehards who traveled across the country for his 2025 tour, who have streamed billions of views on YouTube collectively, who spam "Why Be Better" under unrelated posts as a daily ritual. They have over the years developed a sixth sense for reading his social media behavior. The reaction to the deletion was split in 3 clear directions. The first group was genuinely confused, catching up to a story that had spread so fast they were still piecing together screenshots. Posts like, "Hold on, I'm late ASF. Why NBA YoungBoy deactivate his pages? What y'all do to that man?" Flooded platforms as people played catch up. The second group was furious, not just at the "fuck yo baby" post, but at years of accumulated behavior finally hitting a limit. The third group, and this is the core of his fan base, interpreted the deletion as a creative signal. They've seen this before. They believe, based on historical precedent, that every time YoungBoy goes dark, he comes back with music. Here's the thing about NBA YoungBoy that nobody ever fully reckons with. He has never pretended to be something he's not. Every horrible thing he's done, every moment of genuine growth, every moment of visible regression, it's all documented in his music, in his interviews, in his social media history. He is one of the most thoroughly legible figures in popular culture, precisely because he cannot maintain a carefully curated image. He told Bootleg Kev that there's not one thing scripted about him. He said he has no label puppet master, no PR consultant whispering in his ear. And you believe him, because no PR consultant in the world would have allowed the "fuck yo baby" post to stay up long enough to go viral. In a 2025 Complex cover story, he admitted to feeling blackballed by the industry, saying he avoids parties and award shows and that people stay away from him. But he built an empire anyway. He owns 100% of his masters. He founded, never broke, E Again Records. He's one of the few rappers alive who turned YouTube into a primary distribution engine rather than a secondary one. And now he's staring down what might be the most publicly damaging controversy of his post-incarceration life. Not a gun charge, not a federal indictment, but a conflict about whether he said "fuck" to his own child's existence. As of March 11th, 2026, his accounts remained deactivated. Arcola was still going live, still emotional, still airing grievances. The internet is still watching. And Kentrell is in whatever room he's locked himself in, sitting with all of it, the way he always has. Make no mistake, what comes out of this silence will not be an apology tour. It won't be a press conference. It'll be a song. And the fans who have been with him since day one already know that. They're just waiting for the drop, because this man has turned every low point of his life into a chart-topping project. He turned house arrest into Sincerely, Kentrell. He turned federal indictments into billion streams. He turned abandonment, grief, and sheer psychological chaos into one of the most enduring catalogs in the history of hip-hop. So when NBA YoungBoy deletes his social media and fans are confused, maybe the confusion isn't about whether he's okay. Maybe the confusion is about why they're still surprised.